They're not good enough to start. They're not even good enough to play. But they do talk a good game. So come join Lou and Jose from the sidelines where all the best sports discussions happen anyway. Welcome in to the Benchwarmers podcast.
Welcome into the program, everybody. I'm Lou Ruggieri. That's Jose Ortiz. And this is the Benchwarmers podcast. Wherever, whenever, and however you happen to be listening, we appreciate you taking some time out to spend it with us. We are going to try to make it worth your while. And we have a pretty packed show. Actually, it's only going to be a 1 hour show this week. We had some changes in scheduling, so we're going to try to trim this down and just give you the best of the best for a 1 hour, once a week show. So a little shorter than normal, but we're going to go for quality, not necessarily quantity. You can find us on the iHeartRadio podcasting app. We are also part of the newly formed Amazon Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube. You can also follow us along on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram at the Benchwarmers Podcast. And you can also, we have Twitter. Sorry, I forgot Twitter. I always forget Twitter. At the BW Pod. And email us if you'd like at the Benchwarmers Podcast at yahoo.com. Benchwarmers with a Z for marketing purposes. Coming up in the second half of this hour, we're going to play our favorite game, Make No Mistake or Give Me a Break, our true-false statement game where we make some statements and kind of see which way either of us is leaning. We have we have to look ahead and see week 8 already, week 8 picks coming up. We have a moral lesson that we learned from something in the NFL this week, which is going to be fun. In a little bit, we have our highlight and low light of the week. Highlight and low lights of the week is how that's supposed to be said. And to start off, we have to go with the top 5 news stories in the NFL according to us. And so, Jose, without further ado, I'd like to jump in right here and get to the first story of the week. The Pittsburgh Steelers, in what no one predicted was going to be the game of the year up until, at least 6 weeks in. The Steelers go to 6-0 to beat the Tennessee Titans 27-24. They may or may not be the best team in the AFC. I guess according to the record, you kind of have to think that they are. They jumped out to an early lead. Ben looked good, not great. 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, not great games. Just thoughts right off the bat from the undefeated Pittsburgh Steelers.
Well, I think we called it. We expected the Steelers to get this win. It's hard for me to look at the numbers and see how the Steelers won this game, being that been through 3 interceptions. I think it's just as you said, they got off to an early lead. It was 24-7 at halftime, and then just kind of held on. Key missed field goal at the end of the game by Gostkowski for the Titans with a chance to tie it. Steelers just kind of found a way to win this one, and hats off to them. Where it's at this point, you kind of have to keep them in the discussion as best team in the NFL, really, as one of the best teams in the NFL, not just in the NFC or in the AFC. One of the best. I think they're the last remaining undefeated team in the NFL. So you really have to just look at them as one of the better teams. And the Titans, kind of a step back, but you're still 5-1. Just got to keep going and take care of business.
Yeah, and the Steelers, I think, they stayed true to themselves. They stayed with the ground game. It wasn't super effective, but James Conner still had 20 carries, which 82 yards, which is still 4 yards a carry. It's not bad.
It's not bad.
But Ben spread the ball around so well. Juju Smith-Schuster, 9 receptions for 85 yards. Deontay Johnson, 9 receptions for 80 yards. Eric Ebron all of a sudden showed up, 6 receptions for 50 yards. And then even the running backs and the tight ends got in there, like the other tight ends. The Chase Claypool was held to 1 catch for -2 yards. So the Titans clearly, Mike Vrabel taking a page out of the Bill Belichick playbook and taking away the best player on your team, which for the last couple of weeks has been Chase Claypool. So even without him, it's that the Steelers still found a way. Joe Hayden played well. TJ Watt is a monster. Minkah Fitzpatrick looks like the steal of the century. And they just, from top to bottom, like we said last week, the Steelers just it felt like this was a very evenly matched team, except the Steelers feel like the top end, the ceiling for their offense feels much higher than it does for the Tennessee Titans.
And they just feel like a more savvy, just a more veteran-led savvy team that's going to kind of win these grinded-out type of games, find a way to get it done. The Titans are still kind of new to this party, I would say.
Yeah, and Ben, when Ben's healthy, which is rare, but he looks he looks good. He's
Yeah.
he's tough and he's tough to bring down still. He's big, he's big arm still. Makes throws that he made a couple throws there that were through the tightest windows you could possibly imagine. And he's a grizzly veteran in the AFC North, and he's not afraid. And he has a team around him that's not afraid either. And that defense is scary good.
Yeah. And they still gave up 24 points, but you don't have dominant defenses in the NFL anymore. You just have to, it's about getting stops on third down and forcing turnovers when you can.
Yeah, the bend don't break policy seems to be something that happens more and more in terms of defining a good defense. But all right, so the second story, we're going to stay right in the AFC North. Baker Mayfield answers the bell in a last-second come-from-behind victory over the Cincinnati Bengals. He had 5 touchdown passes. They lost Odell Beckham, torn ACL, out for the season, which is really bad news. I'm not surprised that they won. I'm surprised that it was this close, honestly. I thought that like I said last week, after getting their butts kicked by the Steelers, I thought the Browns would there'd be a trickle-down effect in the AFC North, and the Browns would come in. And, it's like I got beat up by my big brother, so now I'm going to beat up my little brother. And the little brother said, "Nah, man, I'm going to start hitting back." And the Bengals, the Bengals' record isn't great. They're 1-5-1, but it feels like the best 1-5-1 team I've seen in a while.
Hey, don't forget about the Eagles. No, I'm just joking.
No, absolutely not.
But listen, a win's a win. You would have liked it to be a little bit more convincing if you're the Browns. But the thing that stood out to me, and maybe this is an indictment, it could be a coincidence, but it might also be an indictment against Odell Beckham Jr. Baker Mayfield has maybe the best game of his career after he loses Odell Beckham Jr. By the way, he was injured in the first quarter. So it wasn't like it was at the end of the game. It was basically most of the game he was without, quote unquote, his best receiver.
Yeah.
And maybe he's just a guy who's more comfortable spreading the ball around and not feeling pressure to have to support a player's expected yardage or target or reception total from a game-to-game basis. Because this is about as good as we've seen him look all year. This is the Baker Mayfield we've been waiting for. And what was most impressive is this wasn't like he threw 5 touchdowns in the first half and then the Bengals just played catch up. He absolutely needed to have that last touchdown with I think it was 15 seconds left to Donovan Peoples-Jones to get the game winner. This was a end-to-end big-time performance in a game they absolutely had to have. The Browns are 5-2 right now. Only losses to the Steelers and to the Ravens, which are not two teams where you're like, oh man, they're terrible teams to lose to. Those are two teams you would expect to lose to. So part of being a good NFL team is beating the teams you're supposed to beat, and right now the Browns are doing that.
Yeah, and the Browns, I mean, the same thing. They've spread the ball around, like you said. I mean, Rashard Higgins showed up big time. He had 6 receptions for 110 yards. But aside from that, the other receivers 4, 3, 5, 3. I think Jarvis Landry is still their best receiver that they have. He's not an over the top guy, but he's pretty good. And I think the Kareem Hunt signing is looking better and better with Nick Chubb off the field. All of a sudden, it's like, oh wow, we still have a number 1 running back in our backfield, and I think that's been incredibly helpful.
Kareem Hunt is probably one of the top 10 running backs in the NFL right now. When they're going to get, at some point they're going to get Nick Chubb back, and their backfield's going to get even better. There's a lot to be excited about for this victory with the Cleveland Browns. Jarvis Landry didn't even have that great of a game. You look at it, Harrison Bryant had 2 touchdowns. David Njoku sighting, he had a touchdown.
And didn't get injured. That was nice.
Didn't get injured. So, all positive with the exception of the defense. But you probably have to attribute a little bit of that to Joe Burrow and the Bengals offense. Joe Burrow is a good quarterback. 400 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's looking the part right now. And so, it's hard to fault the Browns defense for not being able to stop this guy, because it seems like a lot of teams haven't been able to stop him.
Yeah, and I think that the Bengals were missing Joe Mixon a lot, because Giovanni Bernard is a serviceable running back, but he's more catch than carry, and he had 13 carries for 37 yards, and then he had 5 catches for 59 yards and a touchdown. So it just felt like, it was nice. AJ Green sighting, that was amazing. That was really fun to see him back and not get hurt. He had 7 receptions for 82 yards. Tyler Boyd was the man in charge. He had 11 receptions for 101 yards. And T. Higgins, by the way, I'm going to tell you this right now. T. Higgins is going to be a monster. He is 6'4", 215, and he's still young, but I think that he's coming along, and he's going to be pretty good when he starts figuring things out a little more.
Absolutely. I think he runs like a 4.5 40 too. He's really fast as well. So this heralded class of great wide receivers, the rookie draft or rookie wide receivers is living up to the hype right now.
So, all right. So that's our second news story of the week. The third of our top 5 stories of the week, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers just routing the Raiders in Vegas, 45-20. The Bucs scored 83 points in the last 2 weeks, and Brady had 4 touchdown passes. It was nice to see Rob Gronkowski back in the game. Yeah, Brady had 4 touchdowns, 369 yards passing. Leonard Fournette back in action. Rob Gronkowski and Chris Godwin both on the field. So it was nice to have them coming along and doing well. And with Scotty Miller, all of a sudden, I mean, it feels like every team that Brady's on, he just finds some kind of weird small white guy to just blow up and make the best receiver on the planet. And Scotty Miller is that guy on the Bucs this year.
I'm just impressed with Tom Brady. I just don't know how many things you can say. He's just amazing. Every time I think that he's done, in the offseason, I was doubting him. I was like, I just don't see it happening. And they started off a little slow, but you see them getting better and better each week. And what Brady does better than maybe any quarterback in the history of the game is he just takes what's there. He's not forcing it into double coverage because you're a big time wide receiver. You're open 5 yards away. I'm going to throw it to you. Oh, they're double covering you. I'm not going to throw it to you all game because they're double covering you. I'm going to throw it over here. He just finds a way to hit guys who are open and just move the ball. And he's so efficient. He doesn't need a lot of arm talent in the sense of really forcing the ball downfield. He just finds a way to move the ball downfield by just finding open guys who are just, you wouldn't expect, just who the defense just happens to be shading away from. I'm just impressed with the Buccaneers. They're looking, especially with that defense, they're looking really, really, really scary. If I'm one of the upper echelon NFC teams, I do not want to see the Buccaneers in the postseason.
Yeah, and it's starting to look a little less like the second year Peyton Manning Broncos team and a little more like the first year Peyton Manning Broncos team when he went off for those crazy numbers and had one of the best defenses around. Obviously, they lost the Super Bowl, but Brady, I think, is a little different. And I felt like, it was a little more like the Buccaneers defense won this rather than the Raiders lost it, because the Raiders kind of got out of their comfort zone a little bit. I mean, Josh Jacobs had, 17 yards. I mean, Jalen Richard had 20 yards. I mean, anytime that Derek Carr is outgaining Josh Jacobs on the ground, there's a problem. What's up?
No, I was just going to say, just the Raiders aren't a team that play well from behind. We can see that right now. They need to get out to a lead or at least be even with you. And at some point in that second half, the Buccaneers just stepped on the gas and the Raiders just couldn't keep up.
And also, I mean, it was how angry and how upset are Philly fans watching Nelson Aguilar go out there and be one of the best receivers on the field, never mind on the Raiders alone. But 5 receptions, 107 yards, 1 touchdown. He just... I don't know what happened.
And he's catching the ball. He would drop the ball all the time in Philadelphia. He's finding a way to catch the ball. Sometimes a change of scenery helps, and I think that's what the case is. You just get in your head, especially. I don't want to be mean to Philadelphia fans, but they're not the nicest bunch in the world.
Yeah, you can go ahead. They're fine.
They're not the nicest bunch in the world, and sometimes maybe it gets in your head. Maybe I'm a bad receiver. Maybe I am a bum. Maybe I don't belong in the NFL, and then you kind of lose that edge and that confidence that you need. But yeah, Aguilar's out there balling right now, and he's probably their best receiver overall, other than Darren Waller. So yeah, it's. I actually have been also pretty impressed with Derek Carr. I know he didn't have the greatest game in the world this past week, but so far this season, he's been pretty impressive to me. I don't think I'm ready to move on from the Raiders quite just yet. Buccaneers seem like one of the better teams in the NFL.
I mean, the Buccaneers just embarrassed the Packers, who we were crowning, the best team in the NFC, and then the Raiders, who, don't forget, the Raiders put the smackdown on the Chiefs a couple weeks ago, and all of a sudden we were like, oh, wait a second, AFC West. But now, I mean, the Bucks. It might not be these teams doing poorly. The Bucks might just be that good.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
It looks like it. It looks like it, certainly.
And I would not want to. I would not want to face the Buccaneers, especially in that division. I think New Orleans, better figure out how to get Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders back pretty soon. But okay, so our fourth story, our fourth top of our top 5 news stories of the week: the Seattle Seahawks lose to the Arizona Cardinals in what was the longest game in history for me, because I was rushing to try to get through all these games and watch everything. And normally I enjoy it, but I had, it was some things at home, some personal stuff, and I was trying to hurry up and get through everything. And of course, the last game that I watch on Sunday is the Seahawks Cardinals, and it goes into overtime, and then it goes there's 15 seconds left in overtime before this game finally ends, and it was a great game. It was just I was getting very angry because it felt like the last 2 minutes of a football game. It felt like the last 2 minutes of an average NBA basketball game with penalties and timeouts and penalties and other penalties, false start, and da. But at the end of the day, the Cardinals went to 5-2, and they edged out the Seahawks 37-34, which I think surprised a lot of people.
Yeah. And
Kyler Murray just the 360 yards passing, 67 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Russell Wilson, 388 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, though, which is rough.
Yeah.
And he had 84 yards rushing, which is very surprising, I think, that he outgained Kyler Murray on the ground. But this game had everything. Tyler Lockett just exploded and looked like, I don't even know. He looked like Randy Moss in, 98. I mean, he had 15 receptions, 200 yards, and 3 touchdowns. I mean, that's a good 2 weeks for a receiver.
Yeah, I don't know who was guarding Tyler Lockett.
Nobody was.
Well, I know Patrick Peterson is supposed to be the shutdown shadow corner, so I'm going to have to assume that he was on DK Metcalf because DK only had 2 receptions for 23 yards.
He got two big receptions, 1 touchdown over Patrick Peterson.
Yeah, which was like a diving one-handed catch. It's like, how do you even fault Peterson for that? It's like, what are you supposed to do?
He had 1 catch that was it was the first catch he made. It was the first completion Russell Wilson had. It was you could not have, if you walked up to him and placed the ball in Tyler Lockett's arm, he could not have been better placed. Meanwhile, it's 50 yards downfield that Russell Wilson just drops it in this bucket.
I don't know if there's anything more exciting than watching Russell Wilson throw a deep ball in the NFL. He hangs up there. I'm sorry, what'd you say?
He's the best. He's the best in the league at it.
Oh, absolutely.
It's incredible.
And it just hangs up there for so long, and then the guys just run right to it. There's just no one else. It's always right over the defender's outstretched hands. He's got a perfect deep ball. But what I will say about Kyler Murray, welcome to the MVP discussion, buddy, because he looked great. He started off a little slow. It seemed like he was a little skittish at first, but he cleaned things up. And he might be better. Like, we were talking in the offseason about comparing, where does Kyler Murray rank? And I didn't want to put him in the top 10 right away. I wanted to see it. But now that I'm seeing it, he might be better than Lamar Jackson. Where we had Lamar Jackson as a top 5 type quarterback. I'm looking at Kyler Murray right now. I think he's more accurate. I think he's got better, just arm talent as far as just power and strength. He's probably maybe a step slower than Lamar Jackson, but he's still plenty fast, and he's just as elusive. I'm loving what I'm seeing out of Kyler Murray and the entire Arizona Cardinals offense.
Yeah, I mean, I said in the offseason, I thought Kyler was going to do. I mean, obviously that bet we made is long gone, but since Dak got hurt, but I thought that Kyler over the course of the season was going to have a better year than Dak Prescott, and Kyler was just. He might be quicker than Lamar Jackson. He maybe top end speed. He's not as fast, but shift in terms of shiftiness, and it feels like, I guess maybe because I don't think he ever lost a game in high school or college, that he just has a grit to him at such a young age that it feels like Lamar Jackson if Lamar Jackson isn't playing with a lead, it feels like he kind of gets in his own head and gets rattled. Yep. Kyler, you can tell he's just like, all right, well, we're down. We're not going to be down for long. So let's go.
The last thing I'll say is the Seahawks need to address this defense. I don't know what they can do. They let Jadeveon Clowney go in free agency, and maybe that was a mistake because their defense just looks bad. They just keep giving up way too many points. You're not going to go far in the postseason if you can't get stops.
Well, they need Jamal Adams back desperately. I mean, he's got to get back, and it's not a cure all, but Jamal Adams can play in the box and he can play coverage. So he's somebody that they went out and spent 2 first-round picks on, and it's clear that they need him. And the other note that I talked from this game was, I mean, how angry is Aaron Rodgers that DeAndre Hopkins ended up on the Cardinals? I mean, can you imagine? It's 10 receptions, 103 yards and a touchdown. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins just still looks like maybe the best receiver in the league still. And he's with, a second-year quarterback and a garbage offensive line that it's just imagine him with Devontae Adams on the opposite side. I mean, that would just be lights out. And it's bad on the Packers, man.
Well, in fairness, I don't know if the Packers had the package. Remember, the Cardinals traded David Johnson. I don't know, I'm not saying he's this great player, but they traded David Johnson. I think they also traded, I'm not sure exactly what picks were involved. Maybe the Cardinals just had more to trade than the Packers did.
Yeah, I mean, it was unfortunate.
It is disappointing, though.
I can't help but think about that because that was the biggest offseason move outside of Tom Brady, I guess. But speaking of Tom Brady, his old team, his former team, the Patriots, are our number 5 story of the week. The Patriots get blown out and embarrassed 33-6 at the hands of your San Francisco 49ers, Jose. And I'm going to let you take the lead on this one.
I was just jumping for joy. Let me tell you, I'm watching the game, and it's just getting out of hand early. And those are my favorite types of games when I'm watching a 49ers game, because then I can just relax.
Yeah.
There's no stress. I love just watching the blowouts and then I watch the other teams have close games. But Jeff Wilson Jr. apparently tapped into his inner Walter Payton. And
I remember saying, who is Jeff Wilson? I was like, who is this guy? I was like, what?
It's their third string running back.
That to me was the biggest thing by them. It reminded me of Mike Shanahan of Kyle's dad, because you could plug in any guy in that Denver Broncos zone blocking scheme and he had 1,000 yards. And it feels the same way with the 49ers. They just, except Jerick McKinnon, who apparently can't do anything, but Jeff Wilson came out of nowhere and 112 yards. Amazing.
I've just been impressed with the 49ers over the last 2 weeks. That I'm calling it the Miami Massacre of 3 weeks ago, where they just got shellacked. When you get beat like that by a team that's, I don't think anyone considered equal to the 49ers, it's kind of shocking. Like, wait, how good are the 49ers? And to bounce back, beat the Rams, beat the Patriots in Foxborough, no less. Now you get the Seahawks next week, and we'll see what happens. But I'm for right now, I'm very impressed with what I'm seeing the 49ers do. They're getting back to running the ball, taking the ball out of Jimmy Garoppolo's hands, and just letting Kyle Shanahan's genius play calling lead the way.
Yeah, and Jimmy G's stat line confuses me because I thought maybe this would be a telling game, playing the coach that drafted you and knows you probably better than you know yourself. But Garoppolo went 20 for 25, which is really good. But he had 277 yards, but he had 0 touchdowns, and he had, five of those out of the 5 incompletions that he did have, 2 of them were interceptions. So it's like he was efficient, but also not helpful. It's strange.
Let's just call Jimmy Garoppolo what he is. At this point, he's a game manager. He looks good at times. He looked bad at others. He's kind of in that middle nebulous of NFL quarterbacks who just aren't consistent.
He's very Alex Smithy, Alex Smith.
Alex Smithian. He's to me, he's kind of like Jared Goff a little bit. I know you're not a huge Jared Goff fan. Neither am I. I mean, who is? But just a quarterback where right when you're ready to say, oh, he's a good quarterback, just comes out and has this terrible game. And then when you're ready to say, oh, he's terrible, draft someone else, he has a great game.
Yeah.
I think the 49ers should be, no matter what happens this year, 49ers need to be drafting a quarterback next season with a high pick.
Yeah, I think between those two, I think Jared Goff is a little bit better of a quarterback actually than Garoppolo because Goff does have a deep ball that is very accurate. He's not afraid to take shots down the field. It feels like Garoppolo gets a little skittish throwing the ball too far. Maybe that's why
he's very afraid. He's very afraid to throw the ball. It really, if he holds the ball for more than 2 seconds, I'm terrified. I just don't even want him. Just get rid of the ball. 2 seconds or less. Get rid of it.
And they, the Niners receiving core it's very well balanced, I'll say, because Ayuk is fast. Deebo Samuel and George Kittle are monsters, and you need more than one person to tackle them every time they touch the ball. Even Kyle Juszczyk, I think, is the most underrated player on that team because he is, how many fullbacks do you know by their first and last name in the league at all? And then you have a guy who went to Harvard who is, he obviously is a good blocker, but he's an amazing pass catcher considering his position. And they just have so many weapons and so many options that aside maybe George Kittle is the one guy that you try to shut down, but then they find a way. And I think Kyle Shanahan is making a case for the best coach in the league, Bill Belichick included at this point. Absolutely. Which actually leads us to our stat of the week. It's a twofer. So you're getting 2 for 1 here. The 33-6 loss is the worst home loss in the Bill Belichick era, and it is the second worst loss ever. The only worst one that came in 2003 at the Buffalo Bills when they lost 31-0, which I want to go back and see what happened in that game.
2003.
Brady didn't miss. He missed a bus or something. I don't know what happened, but that must have been just ridiculous.
I think that's the championship year for them, so it is surprising.
Yeah. And the other part of that stat is it was the 49ers had scored a touchdown on their opening drive, which is the first opening drive touchdown the Patriots have allowed since 2016, which I thought was unbelievable. And so, the Niners, I think that was a statement game, Jimmy G revenge game, and he certainly looked like the better team. And Patriots, Cam is not a very. I hate to sound like I'm piling on, but I felt pretty much since Cam has been in the league that he's not a good passer. He's got a strong arm. He obviously is a mobile threat, but his accuracy is just not good. It's never been good, and it only got an uptick his last year in Carolina because they got Christian McCaffrey and they dumped the ball down to him, a million times. But other than that, he's been a sub 50%, sub 60% thrower pretty much his whole career.
Yeah, Cam Newton is. If you can get him into short passing play, what they were doing early with him, running him a lot and getting in short passes with him getting rid of the ball quickly, was working well. But the problem is once you're a defense that you can kind of figure that out and stop that from happening, he doesn't really have a second move to go to. And then, you couple that with the fact that the position players for the Patriots are just not very good.
They're awful.
Running back, wide receiver, tight end. They just don't have good players at the offense. So there's no one who can really make up for no one who can take a 5-yard pass and go 40 yards with it or anything. They have to go methodically down the field, and that just doesn't work in today's NFL very consistently.
Yeah, I mean, they had Damian Harris was their leading rusher, and Jacoby Myers was their leading receiver. I mean, that's you're not winning. No. You're not winning any games with those two guys being the best people on your team.
And Cam Newton's not the type of player at this stage of his career, or really at any stage of his career, where he's taking a receiver and making him better. That's just not what Cam Newton does.
No, and there was a play, by the way, that I thought was amazing. Stephon Gilmore was covering George Kittle, and George Kittle hit a route and cut and caught a pass against Stephon Gilmore that made him look pedestrian. And this is arguably the best cornerback in the league that we're talking about. And just to give you an idea of how dangerous and how versatile George Kittle is as a weapon. So, all right. We do have to do our highlight and low light of the week, and then we're going to take a break, and we'll come back. So highlight of the week for me was actually on an interception play in the Seahawks Cardinals game. Buda Baker intercepted Russell Wilson, and he was running down with what looked like a walk-in touchdown. And DK Metcalf ran 90 yards and tracked him down. And I think he hit like 22 miles an hour, they showed on Sunday night. And just the effort, the intensity, the not willingness to give up, and that play they ended up going for it on fourth down and they lost. So DK Metcalf essentially robbed the Cardinals of a touchdown with a hustle play like something I've almost never seen.
Yeah, that's DK Metcalf's athletic profile, as we've said it so many times, it's just not fair.
He's Galvatron. I'm going to say it again.
No one should be allowed to be that tall and fast and big and strong. It shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah, Galvatron was the evolution of Megatron and Transformers. DK Metcalf is the evolution of Calvin Johnson in the NFL. Galvatron, Metcalf. That's it. I'm just going to keep pushing.
Well, hopefully it'll stick. Yeah. My highlight of the week, I'm just going to talk about Justin Herbert for a second. Justin Herbert is the real deal. Every now and then, people you make a draft pick and you can immediately tell that this guy has it. The most recent game against the Jaguars, 347 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, leads the Chargers to a 39-29 victory. In his last 3 games, 10 touchdowns, 1 interception, 65.6% completion percentage. Future looks bright for Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers. Very, very impressed with the rookie.
Yeah, I mean, we have a make no mistake or give me a break involving him later on. So stick around for that. He looks like the real deal. And I guess his ascension. I feel so bad for Tyrod Taylor. I feel like Tyrod Taylor is going to be the new Wally Pipp, where it's just. Whoops. Yeah. And I said it when it happened. I said that little hiccup by the doctors on the Chargers, that might have been a season-ending injury for Tyrod Taylor by way of being supplanted by Justin Herbert. And it looks like that prophecy is coming true. And so I do feel bad for Tyrod Taylor. I feel like he's just sort of this, he's the next version of Ryan Fitzpatrick. In a way, it's just, all right, man, we're going to set you up, you get us in shape, and then we're going to throw you to the side and bring in the new guy.
It's the life of a backup quarterback. He better get used to it.
Yeah. Speaking of backup quarterbacks, my low light of the week is the entire Dallas Cowboys team from top to bottom, start to finish, offense and defense, against making the Washington Redskins look like the 91 Washington Redskins. And it was not even close. It wasn't close from the beginning, from the jump. The Cowboys they put up 3 points, and the Washington football team had 25 points. And Andy Dalton goes out. He has no zip on the ball whatsoever. And then Ben DiNucci comes in and does just as bad. Zeke was a non-player. I mean, the entire team was just, they never showed up. I feel like the only defense that the Cowboys offense could score on is the Cowboys defense. The only team I feel like those two things would cancel each other out, and the Cowboys offense could actually look good. And it was pathetic and it was embarrassing. And I hope that Jerry Jones was paying attention, because he should be ashamed of himself.
And this is why, I know Dak's injured, but this is why I was in favor of just paying Dak, and this is why quarterbacks get paid so much money when you're a starter. Andy Dalton doesn't belong in the NFL. He's not even a good backup, but he's not an NFL quality. He's not an NFL level quarterback. And you see the difference in the offense from when Dak was there for the first 3 weeks or 4 weeks, whatever it was, and now that we've seen Andy Dalton for 2 weeks, he looks terrible. And now he got hurt, and so I can't even imagine. Like, if you're worse than Andy Dalton, so I don't know what that even looks like. I'm terrified of what that could be. But my low light of the week is actually very similar to yours. It's the entire NFC East. NFC East, I mean.
They're so bad.
They're so bad. The only reason that they're 2-2 this week is because they all played each other, right? Because the Philadelphia Eagles played the Giants and the Cowboys played the Redskins. So, in theory, someone had to win, though. It would have really been apropos if they all had, if it was like two ties where they couldn't even get the win.
Yeah.
But so one of the things they do to determine how bad a team is or how good a team is, look at the point differential. All four teams have a negative point differential combined minus 184 points. So the division has been outscored by 184 points so far this season. They have a combined 7-20-1 record. It's just terrible. I imagine a below 500 team is almost definitely going to win this division, which
I think that starting next year, I'd like to see the NFL make it a case that, I mean, you can win your division with a losing record, but you cannot host a playoff game.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, maybe just the top four seeds. The top four seeds host the playoff game.
And if I told you, just to touch on the Washington Cowboys game, if I told you one of these running backs on Washington or Dallas had 12 carries for 45 yards, and another one had 20 carries for 128 yards, and those two running backs were Antonio Gibson and Zeke Elliott, you could make a lot of money if you bet on Antonio Gibson, because no one knew who Antonio Gibson was before this game, and he looked like the second coming of Walter Payton. And I want to make a suggestion for the NFL, and I want to see if maybe they'll go for this. Maybe I'll write another letter to the commissioner. I think that the NFL should let the entire NFC East, the Eagles, the Washington football team, the Giants, and the Cowboys combine forces and combine all of their rosters to see if they could put out an 11-man offense and 11-man defense that could be even just respectable in NFL terms.
That might be an interesting exercise that you and I could do. It just take their entire roster and actually try to put together a quality 11 starting defenders and 11 starting offensive players. Even just offense. Even their skill positions at offense. I mean, I would say Carson Wentz would be your starting quarterback. Running back, I mean, if it has to be Zeke. If Saquon's healthy, I would say Saquon, but right now, if you're going as is, I mean, you kind of have to give it to Zeke by default, but... Yeah, Miles Sanders, same type of thing in the Philadelphia. I will say one thing about Antonio Gibson. I've been actually very excited to see what they would do with him. It just seemed like they were giving the ball to J.D. McKissic. I've had my eye on him since the draft because he was basically such an electric player in college. But yeah, Zeke has been pretty disappointing to start this whole season. Really, I'm pretty disappointed. Yeah, I mean, props to Seattle, by the way, because they've had a crowd of running backs in recent history that are all doing pretty well in the NFL right now. Mike Davis on Carolina is putting up numbers. He was a former Seahawk. J.D. McKissic, former Seahawk, looked pretty good in this game. Mm-hmm. So they're pretty good at running back. But yeah, and receiving, I mean, I think it's got to be Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, and then maybe Terry McLaurin with the Redskins. Darius Slayton maybe from their Certainly no one on the Eagles. No, I mean, there is nobody on the Eagles. You can't even pick on him. I would say I don't even know who you would pick at tight end. Is it Evan Ingram? I think it has to be. Yeah, I think it has to be. Both Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz are injured, so I don't know who. And I mean, I wouldn't be able to name all the offensive linemen. I'm not going to pretend like I know the offensive lines of the NFC East. And a quarterback, of course, it has to be Carson Wentz because everyone else is injured. So there we did. We did it. All right, NFC, get it going. All right, so that's going to do it for this first half of our show. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back. We have to do Make No Mistake or Give Me a Break. We have our moral lesson of the week we learned, and then we have to look forward to week 8. So stick around, and we're going to come right back on the Benchwarmerz podcast.
You can reduce your risk of COVID-19 by cleaning and disinfecting frequently touched items and surfaces every day. These items include remotes, tables, counters, light switches, doorknobs, handles, toilets, and sinks. Wear disposable gloves to clean and disinfect. If you can see that the item is dirty, wash first with soap and water or another general cleaner. Then use a household disinfectant to kill germs. Follow manufacturer's instructions for application and proper ventilation to safely use the product. For phones or other electronics, follow the manufacturer's instructions for cleaning and disinfecting. If no instructions, use alcohol-based wipes or sprays containing at least 70% alcohol. Dry surface thoroughly. For more tips, visit cdc.gov.
Welcome back to the Benchwarmers podcast, where being all talk is actually a good thing. Now, back to the action. Or talk, I guess.
Welcome back to the program, everybody. I'm Lou Ruggieri, that's Jose Ortiz, and this is still the Benchwarmers podcast. Appreciate you taking some time to spend it with us. Hopefully, it's been worth your while thus far. Hopefully, you're also following along on either the iHeartRadio podcasting app, Amazon Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, or following us on Instagram, Facebook, at the Benchwarmers Podcast, or Twitter at the BW Pod, or you can email us at the Benchwarmers Podcast at yahoo.com, Benchwarmers with a Z. We did our top 5 news stories in the NFL. We touched on our highlight and lowlight of the week. And now, Jose, it's time to play Make No Mistake or Give Me a Break, which is essentially our true-false segment. So we're going to make a series of statements. We can alternate if you'd like and see if we think make no mistake, that's absolutely true, or come on, give me a break, that's ridiculous.
All right, you start us off.
Well, I'm going to start with a team that I'm not proud to say that I've rooted for over the years. The Dallas Cowboys should start their rebuild right now. And by that, I mean, have a fire sale, get what you can for Amari Cooper, get what you can for Zeke Elliott, accumulate some draft picks, let Dak walk in the offseason and just gut it and start over, because that offensive line had their day in the sun, and now they're all injured and older and beat up, and this team is going nowhere fast. So you might as well just embrace it and try to suck. Now, I'm not saying tank, but just get rid of everybody and kind of start over from scratch.
Yeah, I'm going to say give me a break here. I can't, maybe I'm just remembering incorrectly. I can't remember the last time something like this worked, where you had a team that was supposed to be good or whatever, and it wasn't good because of injuries, right? Because that's really what's happened. There's been injuries to Dak, there's Zach Martin, there's Tyrann Mathieu, Tyron Smith, I'm sorry. There's been injuries, and so obviously you're not going to be playing up to your best. But I can't think of a team that has just said, you know what, we're going to blow it up, we're going to rebuild, we're going to get draft picks, and we're going to come back better. And it just doesn't seem to happen. The NFL windows are too small for that to really work. Coaches get fired too quickly. So if I'm the Cowboys, maybe you could get rid of. I might get rid of Amari Cooper. I'd get rid of Amari Cooper, since you already have CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup. You get rid of Amari Cooper, sign those 2 other guys. But I think you franchise Dak and you try and run it back again next season.
I don't know. It worked pretty good for the Cardinals. They drafted Josh Rosen. They didn't do well, and then they said they just threw everything out after a year and started over.
But it wasn't because they just had a bad, like, they just had the worst record in the NFL again. So if the Cowboys end up with the worst record in the NFL, yes, draft Trevor Lawrence, let Dak Prescott walk. But if you end up with the 7th pick or the 8th pick, I wouldn't go actively trading pieces to try and get more picks. That's not what the Cardinals did, I don't believe.
No, I mean, the Raiders did that a little bit
and hasn't worked.
I mean, it's taken some time, but they're certainly better, I think, with John Gruden and this kind of new team that they had a couple missteps, with Antonio Brown, the trial and error of the Antonio Brown situation. But overall, I mean, when John Gruden traded the Khalil Mack for those draft picks, I mean, everybody killed him. Mm-hmm. And it looks like it's worked out pretty good for both sides at this point. I mean, we thought, the Bears got the better end of it, but, the Raiders, Mike Mayock, I mean, give them credit. They drafted well. And I guess the big test and the big example we're going to see is the Jaguars in the upcoming draft, because the Jaguars did exactly what I'm saying. And they've given away almost everybody on their team except Miles Jack. And, I don't really count.
But they were bad for multiple years in a row. Like, this isn't like
they were the AFC Championship, 3 years ago?
Okay, fine, 3 years ago. That's 3 years where they've been slowly kind of deconstructing. You're basically saying after this, not even full season, just blow it all up, and it's like, whoa, I don't know if that's the case, but I don't see that being highly successful. That's all I would say. I just don't see it being successful.
I mean, I felt like they did it a lot on this year. I mean, Calais Campbell, they jettisoned. There was they had their cornerback. I can't think of names off the top of my
Jalen
head.
Ramsey,
Jalen
AJ Boye. Not Boye. AJ Boye was over there. Yeah, AJ Boye. But they got rid of him, like a year or two ago. I mean, they have been getting rid of players, and Yannick Ngakoue, Calais Campbell, like they've been trading guys away. It just, I don't know. I feel like that's more likely to fail than succeed, and especially if the threshold for success is winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Now,
I mean,
if it's making the playoffs, then yeah, I'm sure they could jettison everyone and make the playoffs. But I think they're just as likely, especially in that terrible NFC East, if they just come back healthy next year, I think they have a great chance to win that division.
You might be right. I think I'd say it just because it's been getting worse every year in terms of record-wise since Dak has been there. So it's just they're falling. It feels like they're falling apart, not building up. So
that's fair. I
feel like they've hit their peak, and their peak wasn't very good. It was made the playoffs, but they didn't do much when they got there.
I guess, are you waiting for like another 3 years of basically this level, winning 1 or 2, 3 games? That's basically what you're going to do if you get rid of everyone in the team, sign up for 3 more years of
I mean, it might end up being that way anyway. Look at the entire division. So, all right,
true.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
Make no mistake or give me a break. Number 2, the Kansas City Chiefs are still the best team in the National Football League.
Make no mistake. It's an actually easy question for me. The Steelers have looked impressive. The Packers, the
Buccaneers,
Seahawks, the Buccaneers have all looked impressive. But the Chiefs, to me, until I see them lose in the playoffs, it's going to be hard for me to say that anyone is better than them at this point. They just win so easily, and it doesn't even feel like they have to try sometimes. This past week, they were up like 30 points by halftime. It feels like they don't even have to try sometimes.
I'm actually going to say, give me a break. I think that what the Steelers did is, and if you look at their team top to bottom, I mean, the Chiefs, the Chiefs routed the Broncos, mind you, but it feels like the Chiefs, if they were to play some of the kind of how they play sometimes and they get down, I feel like the Steelers might be able to beat them in a neutral field. I mean, they just look like offense and defense. They might be there to challenge the Chiefs, and I mean, it'll play out how it plays out. But I think right now I'm looking at the Steelers over the Chiefs.
Okay.
So, number 3, make no mistake or give me a break. The Detroit Lions will finish above 500 this season.
Well, they just got to 3-3 this week. I'm gonna say give me a break. It's hard to have any confidence in them really being consistently doing anything. I don't really have to really expand on this. In that division, I'm just going to say give me a break.
I'm also going to say give me a break. I think you have to. Matt Stafford needs a change of scenery. I mean, I feel like it's we've seen it so many times. I mean, they've had arguably the greatest running back of all time walk away. They've had arguably the greatest receiver of all time run away. Walk away early. All because they just got tired of losing. The Detroit Lions, the culture there. I mean, Matt Patricia, everybody thought that maybe he was going to come there and do something, and it doesn't look like he's doing much. And I think, they have, especially watching them play the Falcons, it felt like they were almost mirrors of each other. Like they were both highly skilled teams with solid quarterbacking, a good receiving core, and decent running game, and yet they were just both painfully underachieving, with no real explanation as to why it is. It's just, I think Matt Ryan and Matt Stafford should have a change of scenery. I think it would be good for them. I think it'd be good for the team.
I'm sorry. Keep going.
That's it. That's basically it.
I just want to build off that last thought really quickly. I think that the Washington Redskins should trade for one of those two. You have a chance to win the division right now. I know that the Washington football team. They're tied for the division lead right now.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know. Like
Kyle Allen's not doing it.
Kyle Allen's not going to get it done. If you're the Washington football team and you can trade whatever, I don't know what the cost would be, trade to get a Matt Ryan or trade to get a Matthew Stafford and try and make a postseason run, because the Lions and the Falcons aren't getting there. the Washington football team actually has a chance to get to the postseason. And if they have an elite, a good quarterback, I don't want to call them elite, but a good quarterback, you would think they'd have a chance to get maybe get a win, and maybe, who knows, maybe make a run. They have some good pieces there with the Redskins or the Washington football team.
I would say the same thing for the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah.
Sign up. Philip Rivers is, he obviously made a comeback last week, but it was against the Bengals, so their defense is horrible. And Philip Rivers is clearly, he's probably going to be done after this year, so why not just, you tried, let it go. Matt Stafford and Matt Ryan both have far more high-end potential, I think, at this point than Philip Rivers. And that team is built to win now. They're ready, and it just seems like they're kind of wasting valuable time with that team having Philip Rivers be their quarterback.
Absolutely.
So, all right, number 4, make no mistake or give me a break. Justin Herbert is the best quarterback in his class, and that includes Joe Burrow, Tua Tagovailoa, and of course Jordan Love, who we haven't really seen yet.
It's hard for me. This is a tough one. I'm going to say make no mistake because I've been thoroughly impressed with Justin Herbert. Joe Burrow's looked good too. I don't want to take anything away from him, but I've just liked Justin Herbert a little bit more than I've liked Joe Burrow. That's basically just going on the eye test. That's all. I'm
also gonna say make no mistake for that one, but I think it's an unfair comparison because I think if you were to switch Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert and switch the teams that they have, I think Joe Burrow would do about as well as Justin Herbert has on the Chargers. I think Justin Herbert might actually do better on the Bengals because of his size and how many times that Joe Burrow's got. Joe Burrow's he's on track to break David Carr's record for sacks in a rookie.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So, Joe Burrow's just running for his life, and he's getting mauled out there. And if he finishes the season healthy, I'll be shocked because he just is taking a beating. But, Justin Herbert is, 6'6"? He's much bigger than Joe Burrow, so he might actually do better. But as of right now, for where they are and the situations they're in and the teams, you only play who's in front of you. I think Justin Herbert looks like the best quarterback in that rookie class so far.
Yeah, it looks great. All I would say is it's there. Where you land is kind of part of the breaks in the NFL. It's there's a lot of luck involved. Just like in life, there's luck involved. In the NFL, there's luck too. So,
all right, our 5th and final. Make no mistake or give me a break. The Green Bay Packers are the best team in the NFC.
This is a tough one, but I'm going to say give me a break. I actually think I'm not sure if I would rank them in the top 3. I know I have the Seahawks number 1, definitely. But then at 2, I'm kind of looking at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yep.
As that second team. And then, following the Cardinals getting a win against the Seahawks and kind of comparing the Cardinals against the Packers and thinking about who would win that game, I don't know. I think the Packers might be 4th, so I'm going to say definitely give me a break. Packers are not there.
I'm also going to say give me a break. I think, the Bucs alone, they embarrassed the Packers last week, and I think the Seahawks look great, but I think that Bucs defense is for real. I think the Bucs are the best team in the NFC right now, and the Seahawks are close, but we just saw them lose to the Cardinals, and I don't think the Cardinals are great.
We did see the Bucs lose to the Bears, so let's not forget that either.
That's true.
It's the NFL. It's the NFL.
Defense. I don't think the Seahawks don't have, a very good defense at all. They have a great offense, but their defense without Jamal Adams is suspect at best. And I think that, I just feel like Tom Brady versus the Seahawks defense beats Russell Wilson against the Bucs defense. Even though I think at this point in their career, Russell Wilson's a much better quarterback than Tom Brady.
I just don't see any defense holding the Seahawks below 30 points in a game that matters.
Yeah, you might be right. Hopefully we get to find out later. So,
yep.
All right, so that's it for Make No Mistake or Give Me a Break. Now it's time to wrap up week number 7 with our moral lesson of the week. And the moral lesson this week that we've come to decide on is know when to say when. And this is in reference to Eagles wide receiver Deshaun Jackson, who once again played one game and is back on injured reserve and has spent more time at injured reserve than not in the last 3 years, and it's enough. I mean, I hate to say, it's unfortunate. I mean, the entire Eagles roster is basically on IR, and I think they have more people on IR than they have playing at this point. And Deshaun Jackson, I mean, he was great when he played, but how many times in a row we saw, the core surgery last year, he's an ankle injury this year, and it's just, I'm tired of seeing, even when he was on the Buccaneers for that brief stint, he got hurt and he was out. It reminds me of Wes Welker in a different kind of way. Wes Welker had 1,000 concussions, and after a while, it's like, dude, just I don't even want to see you on the field because you're going to get hurt again, and I'm going to feel bad. Like, just enough is enough, and know when to say when.
Jordan Reed's another guy who kind of fits into that category.
Yes.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of situations where guys want to kind of control their narrative, control how they leave the game, and it just, I would say most of the time it doesn't work out that way. There are a few players who can control it, but for the most part, the game tells you when it's done with you. And being on IR, I think however many times it's been in the last 3 years, that's a sign. It's time for him to retire and enjoy the next chapter of his life.
Yeah, and that's it. So that's our moral lesson of the week. Know when to say when. So, and that's our wrap up for week number 7. Now it's time to look ahead for week number 8. And we can recap our picks from week number 7. Jose, put your money where your mouth is. If you'd like to touch on that, I think my bet is still going on. Full disclosure, we're recording this on Monday, so my bet was the Bears.
Yeah, the Bears minus 5.5 at the Rams.
Yeah. So we'll find out that later. So we'll update that score next week.
Or I'm sorry, or was it Bears plus 5.5? I don't know.
Bears
now.
getting 5.5.
Yeah, it was plus 5.5. I was like, you wouldn't have taken the Bears minus 5.5.
They were getting.
I was like, okay, so you're getting the Bears plus 5.5 against the Rams or at the Rams. I took the Seahawks minus 3.5 at the Cardinals. That was obviously a loss. So it's funny though because I felt good about it for about 3/4 of the game. I was like, oh, this is going to work out, and then it just didn't. So. Yeah, I'm at 3-4 right now overall in the season. We're gonna wait to see if you go to 5-2 or 6-1.
Yep.
My pick for this week, I am taking the Packers minus 6.5 at home against the Vikings.
Oof.
I just think the Packers are going to destroy the Vikings.
I mean, division games records go out the window, but that's
It's a risky pick.
It is
a risky pick.
Justin Jefferson might show up. Blow the doors off him, but my pick for this week, honorary mention, by the way. I just want to touch on this because I don't remember the last time I've seen a line this big. The Jets are getting 19.5 points at the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm not taking them because I think that's probably about right. But when I saw that, I was like, I thought I was looking at the NCAA. I mean, the college score. I was like, what is it? That's crazy. I can't remember the last time I saw a line that big. So my guy, the one I'm going with that I decided on is the Raiders are getting 2.5 points at the Cleveland Browns, and minus Odell Beckham, the Raiders defense is pretty good, and the Raiders offense is very good too. I think the Raiders getting points is something that I think the Raiders are going to win outright. So give me the Raiders plus 2.5.
Yeah, I like it. I think I would have taken that if he hadn't snatched it first. But there were a lot of lines that I was pretty torn with. They set the line so perfectly. I guess that's why Vegas makes so much money because they just set it so perfectly. So,
all right, so let's move on. We have to make our week 8 number picks.
Okay,
week number 8 picks is how to say that the right way. So
just so far, we have outstanding. I picked the Bears. You picked the Rams to win last week, and so we have to wait for the end of the game. Up till this point, we're both 10-2 for the week. So, things are going well. We've had a good week. I'm just going to jump right into it. New England at Buffalo.
New England at Buffalo. Oof. Buffalo, I guess. I mean, I feel like I can't. Buffalo's kind of underachieved a little bit, and even against the Jets this week, they kind of.
Yeah. That was a weak
Josh Allen
victory.
didn't look very good. I mean, if ever a victory looked like a loss, it was the Buffalo Bills against the Jets this week.
I mean, honestly, if you don't beat the Jets by 20 points, it kind of feels like, well, what went wrong?
I think I have a feeling that maybe they were looking past the Jets to the Patriots because this is the Bills, this is going to be their Super Bowl, basically, is to beat, to finally get over that hump and put the Patriots in the rear view. So I think the Bills are going to be amped and excited for this game, and I think Josh Allen's going to get back on track. So, yeah, give me the Bills.
Okay, same thing here. Tennessee at Cincinnati.
Tennessee.
Yeah, that's easy.
Tennessee's going to be angry about that loss to the Steelers, and they're going to want to take it out on somebody.
I think you already gave me your pick here, but I'll give you another chance. Las Vegas at Cleveland.
Give me the Raiders.
The Raiders at Cleveland, yeah.
Yep, give me the Raiders.
Same here. Indianapolis at Detroit.
I feel like this game is going to be better than we think it is, but you know what? I was going to say that give me Detroit. Give me the Lions.
Yeah, this seems like the type of game where you could take a chance on. I'm still going to go with Indianapolis coming off of a bye week, well rested and well prepared for Detroit. But yeah, it seems like a good week, a good pick.
I feel like the Lions could throw some offense up that maybe get a couple Phillip Rivers interceptions.
Mm-hmm. Minnesota at Green Bay.
Green Bay.
Now, part of the reason I have Green Bay too. Part of the reason why I took them in the put your money where your mouth is just it's in Green Bay, and I don't see Minnesota performing that well, although they are on a bye. So we'll see. Here's a fun one: New York Jets at Kansas City.
I know this is just straight up, but I mean, should we give the Jets a few points? Obviously Kansas City.
Yeah, that's just not even.
Although this is a game, this is a very Jetsian game. This is the one game that they'll win.
Yeah. Here's a really that would really be bad for them because then all of a sudden that guaranteed number one pick goes out the window. That would be a Jetsian thing to do, though.
Yep.
Here's an interesting game. I'm not really sure where I stand on this one. Los Angeles Rams at Miami.
You have to take the Rams. It's Tua's first start. Aaron Donald is going to be just eating him alive, and it's going. You have Jalen Ramsey out back, and you have Aaron Donald up front. I mean that's not a great. I know they have a bye week, but Brian Flores, come on, man, what are you doing? This kid's a rookie.
Well, I just remembered after I said I just remembered that Tua's going to be starting. I was like, oh, never mind. This is an easy pick because you're putting the Miami Dolphins have been playing very well of late. And
we might see Ryan Fitzpatrick before the game is over.
Game of the week probably here. Pittsburgh at Baltimore.
Oh, by the way, this game better get flexed till Sunday night because right now the Sunday night, this was almost my load of the week, but I have to wait till next week. The Cowboys Eagles, or the artists formerly known as the Cowboys and the Eagles, are scheduled for Sunday night football this week and in week number 8. And they NBC better flex that like Arnold Schwarzenegger because that is a pathetic game and no one wants. I root for the Cowboys. I still don't want to watch them play. I'd so much rather watch the Ravens and the Steelers in what is going to be a meaningful game.
If they don't end up flexing that game out, I'm going to get tons of husband points by just telling my wife that, I'm going to skip the game this week. I'm going to spend time with you. It's okay. Little tip out there for you husbands.
I'm going to take the Steelers. I mean, the Steelers are on a roll and they just, they look good.
Yep, I agree. Okay. Then we have Los Angeles Chargers at Denver.
Division game, so maybe tougher than we think, but I mean, Justin Herbert is on another level right now, and I think the Chargers are a better team from top to bottom. Even though Denver's defense is pretty good, I don't think it's going to be good enough, so give me the Chargers.
I completely agree. Yeah, Chargers all the way. New Orleans at Chicago.
This game is going to be better than we expect, and I don't know this. We don't know the status of Michael Thomas or Emmanuel Sanders yet. I think so.
Yeah, that's tough.
By the way, side note, I think Alvin Kamara might be the best running back in football, and I feel like I owe him an apology because I thought once he was on his own, and they brought in Mark Ingram left, and they brought in Latavius Murray. I kind of felt like Alvin Kamara was going to take a step back, and he's done nothing of the sort. And he looks amazing. So my apologies to you, Alvin Kamara. You are a man amongst boys. And
he just finds a way to not take the big hit. That's what I love about it. He just finds a way to just not take a big hit.
Finishes strong. He makes good decisions. He's a great pass catcher. At any time he touches the ball, he's a threat to go 40 yards.
Yeah.
And with all that being said, though, I think I'm going to take the Bears because I think the Bears defense, because I don't know the status of, who's playing and who's not playing for the Saints. And I think that Bears defense is going to be tough.
Yeah, I'm going to take the New Orleans Saints. I just think the Saints are better. The Saints defense is not bad. I have no faith in Chicago's offense.
That's fair.
And so that's what it boils down to. The second best game of the week, San Francisco at Seattle.
That's going to be, another game that should be flexed to Sunday night or Monday night. Seattle, I guess.
Yeah, it pains me to pick against my team, but I've got to be objective here, and I got to take Seattle Seahawks at home. I mean, come on, you got to take Seattle.
No Raheem Mostert, no Joey Bosa, or Nick Bosa rather.
Yeah, there's Tevin Coleman might not even be back. Now Jeff Wilson is gone. I just what the 49ers are going to have to do on offense to keep up. I don't know if they have that capability.
Yeah,
so we'll see. All right, last two games here. Dallas at Philadelphia.
No, can I pick nobody?
I think this is an easy Philadelphia pick here.
Yeah, give me Philly.
Yeah,
Philly's defensive line is still pretty good. Carson Wentz is healthy as he can be, and he's playing. So I don't see how the Cowboys score points.
And another easy one here: Tampa Bay at the New York Giants.
Why is this game on TV? The Buccaneers, and it's not close.
Yeah, it's so that's it.
Yeah.
Make no mistake, the only places where we're different are I have Indy, you have Detroit, and I have New Orleans, and you have Chicago. I believe we're the same everywhere else.
All right. All right, so that's going to do it for this week's edition of the Benchwarmers podcast. This is what, our 28th week, I think?
Week 28. Yep.
And actually, I before we close out the show, I wanted to wish a very happy birthday to a friend of mine who got me kind of all the professional radio experience in the world. I don't know if it comes through on this podcast or not, but Lino Rulli is his birthday today. He's the Catholic guy. He's on Sirius XM. I think it's channel 129 still. I hope I got that right, but it's his birthday, so happy birthday to him. I owe him a debt of gratitude because he helped me get good at this. I don't know if I'm still good at it, but I'm trying. So happy birthday, dude. And that'll do it. So we'll see you next time on the Benchwarmers podcast. Take care. Bye-bye.